I never expected the past to speak my name. Not in a throne room carved from living crystal. Not with a voice that echoed like thunder held in velvet. And certainly not from the lips of an alien queen whose very presence bent the air around her. But when she spoke, the universe seemed to pause. Do you remember me, human? I stood frozen at the center of the celestial court of Phyrexia, my heart pounding so loudly I was certain every being present could hear it. The chamber was vast, arched spires of bioluminescent stone rising into darkness, veins of soft gold light pulsing like a heartbeat through the walls. Thousands of alien nobles watched from elevated platforms, their eyes glowing, faceted, or utterly unreadable. And at the far end, upon a throne grown rather than built, sat the queen. She was taller than I remembered. Or perhaps I had been smaller then, bloodied, starving, and barely conscious. Her crown was a lattice of floating crystal shards, orbiting her head like captured stars. Her skin shimmered in deep hues of sapphire and obsidian, etched with faint, glowing sigils that shifted as she breathed. Her eyes locked onto mine. I knew them instantly. Yes, I said hoarsely. I remember. The beginning of that memory was fire. Years earlier, before alliances and councils and fragile peace treaties, I had been a search and rescue pilot for the United Earth Fleet. We weren't heroes, just people sent where things had already gone wrong. My unit was dispatched to the edge of uncharted space after detecting an anomalous distress signal buried beneath cosmic interference. No known species. No registered ship signature. Just a fading cry in the void. Against orders, I followed it. The signal led me to a shattered vessel drifting near a dying star. Its hull was torn open, organic metal fused and cracked as if it had grown rather than been forged. Radiation levels were lethal. My ship's systems screamed warnings. I went anyway. Inside, the air was thin and heavy with ozone. Bodies, alien, unmistakably royal in design, lay scattered, their armor melted, their bioluminescence fading. At the heart of the wreckage, chained by energy restraints meant to suppress immense power, was her. She was younger then, wounded. One of her wings, yes, wings, delicate and radiant, had been burned nearly translucent. Her crown lay shattered at her feet. She should have been dead. Instead, her eyes opened when I approached. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know that Phyrexia was an empire feared across 3 sectors. I didn't know that rescuing her would alter the balance of power in the galaxy. I only knew that someone was suffering. So, I broke the chains. It took everything I had. Overriding safety protocols. Burning out half my ship's systems. Carrying her unconscious form through radiation that should have killed me. I barely made it back to human space before collapsing. When I woke in a medbay days later, she was gone. No message. No thanks. Just silence and a reprimand for disobeying orders. I assumed she had died after all. I was wrong. The middle of the story unfolded years later, when humanity was finally invited, cautiously, reluctantly, into the greater galactic community. I was older then, promoted to a diplomatic escort, my reckless days supposedly behind me. When the Phyrexian Empire requested a human envoy, no one expected what followed. Their ships arrived without warning, colossal living constructs that eclipsed stars, their hulls shimmering with contained energy. Panic rippled through every allied system. Fleets mobilized. Defense grids activated. Then a single transmission cut through the noise. "We come not as conquerors," the voice said, "but to claim a debt." That was how I found myself standing before her now. The queen rose from her throne. The sound was like 1,000 wings unfurling. She descended the steps slowly, her gaze never leaving me. Each step sent faint tremors through the hall. Nobles bowed deeply as she passed. Warriors lowered their weapons. When she stopped in front of me, the air felt charged, heavy with restrained power. "You saved my life," she said. "And in doing so, you saved my empire." Murmurs rippled through the court. "I didn't know who you were," I replied. "I would have done it for anyone." Her lips curved, not quite a smile, but something close. "That is why it mattered." She turned, addressing the court. "Behold," she declared, "the human who defied fear, law, and reason to rescue a stranger. The one who saw a dying being, not an enemy, not a queen, just life worth saving." Some faces showed awe. Others showed suspicion. One noble stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Your radiance, this species is unpredictable, violent. They expand without restraint." "Yes," the queen said calmly. "So did we." She looked back at me. "Do you know what happened after you rescued me?" I shook my head. "My survival ended a civil war before it began," she said. "My rivals believed me dead. When I returned, alive and unbroken, their cause collapsed. Millions were spared." My chest tightened. "I didn't. You changed everything," she interrupted gently, "without ever knowing." Then her tone shifted, growing somber. "But deaths in Virexian culture are not symbolic. They must be answered." The hall went silent. My escort stiffened beside me. "Queen, whatever is owed humanity, this is not about humanity," she said. "It is about him." She faced me once more. "When you saved me, you bound yourself to my fate, not by law, by choice." I felt a chill. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said, "that when the Virexian Empire faced extinction again, this time from beyond, we called upon the one who once stood between me and death." The threat emerged days later. An extragalactic force, silent, consuming, relentless, began erasing systems at the edge of known space. Entire civilizations vanished without a signal. The galaxy panicked. The Virexians fought. They failed. Humans were next in the path. The Queen summoned me privately aboard her flagship, a cathedral of living light drifting through darkness. "I will not command you," she said, "but I will ask." "What?" I said. "Stand with me," she replied. "Not as a soldier, not as a subject, as a reminder of why we fight." I didn't understand until I saw what she meant. The enemy fed on fear, on domination, on rigid hierarchies. They shattered empires from within. But when I stood beside the Queen, an alien monarch and an unremarkable human, the symbol spread. Unity without conquest. Choice without obligation. Other species followed. Humans, Virexians, former rivals, standing together not under one banner, but many. The war was brutal, costly, but it ended, not with annihilation but retreat. The enemy withdrew, unable to fracture what no longer relied on fear. The ending came quietly. Years later, the galaxy was changed. Empires loosened their grip. Councils formed not by dominance, but consent. Humanity was no longer underestimated. And the Queen? She remained. We stood once more beneath alien stars, watching new ships being built, this time for exploration, not war. "Do you regret saving me?" she asked softly. I considered the question. The battles. The losses. The impossible weight of it all. "No," I said. "I'd do it again." Her eyes softened. "In my language," she said, "there is no word for hero. Only for one who remembers life when death is easier." She turned to me, regal and unyielding and profoundly alive. "You will always have a place among my people," she said. "Not because you saved a queen, but because you reminded us what we were protecting." As her ships leapt into the stars, I realized something at last. I hadn't just saved her that day in the wreckage. I had saved a future, and the universe remembered.